tornado. But that's why we say that you can't say never with a system like this that's bowing out. And there it is right there. Some winds going very quickly away from the radar site and a little notch where they're coming toward in the western part of Van Buren County. Let me get out of your way here and I'll show you. This is Clinton over here. This little community of Scotland. This is some rugged, hilly terrain in the northern part of the state. At last scan there really does show some decent wind going away. But these are, generally speaking, they are weak if they're happening at all, and they don't last a long time. And I know that there's not many folks that live out in here, but there are folks that do. And it, again, very, very hilly terrain in this area as it moves off to the northeast. If you're in your home, you need to go to the lowest level of your home, the most interior part of your home, away from exterior walls and windows. You're not going to see a whole lot with this anyway, because there's a ton of water with this as well. And I'm going to show you just the rain part of it. It's hard to tell anything when you're just looking at rain, but the base reflectivity just shows rainfall, and that's just a wall of water really coming in there. So you have to go to the wind mode to see what you're looking at. And indeed, there it is right there. And we'll zoom in just a little bit more. James, this continues to move. These storms are really continuing to move at a very, very rapid clip off to the east. And I know we haven't had a new update in a while, but the next update, this thing's going to jump because it's moving at a very, very rapid pace. I would say in excess of 60 miles an hour. And I think that whole bowed out line may be going even faster than that. So think about a car going by your house at 50 or 60 or 70 miles per hour. That's very, very quick. That's how fast these storms are moving.
Yeah, they are really picking up speed now, and that's one reason why we're concerned about the wind threat. Here's the latest arrival times for places like Clinton, further into Van Buren County. It's going to be right around 10:43. I think it actually could be a little bit sooner than this has it pegged, and then up towards Shirley at 10:55 or around 10:55 in Greers Ferry as we approach 11 o'clock or just thereafter. There could be small areas of rotation along this line. Other than that, we're looking at high winds, and I was looking through observations, looking at Armstead Mountain, which is just to the south of the tornado warned area. There's actually a station there that measures wind, and the highest wind gust I saw in the last 10 minutes was actually closer to 10 o'clock, was 20 miles per hour. We'll see if a wind gust comes through observed, which is always nice to know that strong winds are occurring when you see it on radar, if it's actually reaching the ground level. So we have had a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust from this line reported back at Subiaco just about 30 to 45 minutes ago. So there's the arrival times across Van Buren County. This is really specific to the tornado warned part of the storm. I'll give you a storm track on exactly where the rest of the line is going, because the line, as Barry was saying, is severe thunderstorm warned all the way from northern Conway County and northern Faulkner County, and it's moving at about 55 miles per hour. And so with speed like that, it's not going to take it very long to move across north central Arkansas over the east-northeast. And I'll just go ahead and take this out towards Jackson County, and you'll be able to see exactly when it's headed across really the entire northern part of north central Arkansas. Mountain View and Heber Springs very close to similar arrival times, closer to 10:45 to 11 o'clock, and then over towards Independence County 11:15 to 11:20, and then this line segment, if it holds together, will be reaching Jackson County around 11:45 or just after that. The line kind of trails off back towards the southwest, so while we have storms moving into the central part of the state, the north central part of the state, it's actually going to take things a little bit longer to get into the Little Rock area, and that's going to allow these storms a little more time to weaken. The severe threat really does start to drop after midnight tonight, and while of course there could still be some isolated severe weather, I don't think you're going to see a ton of warnings like what we're seeing right now. So let's take a look again at the tornado warned storm that's ongoing in Van Buren County. We still have a pretty strong area of inflow winds. And I'll put the rotation on here for you so you know exactly where I'm looking. It's just to the south of Highway 16. And again, Botkenberg sits right here. This is headed right for you. Make sure you're in your tornado safe spot. Clinton, you too, even though I think this circulation is going to go just to your north, you've still got a little bit of time to get into your safe spot. The exact location of this is just near Allrad and right along Highway 16, really just towards the south. That's Allrad Community Fire Department there along Highway 16 is about right here. It looks like the Pleasant Grove Friendship Church is about right there. So all three of those locations, I think the strongest rotation may be just south of you, but it's really too close to tell with the broad area of rotation that we have, and it continues to move east at about 45 to 50 miles per hour, quickly approaching US 65, and I think that's going to happen here in the next 15 minutes. Really tough to point out the rotation if you just looked at where the rainfall is. That's why we keep showing you these pretty messy graphics that measure wind. But there is a little bit of a hook right there, and so that is where the rotation is, just towards the south of Highway 16. And of course, Highway 16 snakes through some pretty awesome terrain right there, so very difficult to see anything at this time of night, and especially in this type of terrain. Barry, still looks like we have pretty strong rotation now. A couple of scans have gone by, and this thing is holding together, so I'd imagine this won't be one where we see a tornado warning canceled very quickly because the rotation just fall apart. It looks like it is holding its own. Right along the leading edge and the northern edge of an area, a pocket of very strong winds. State power outages continue to slowly climb. It doesn't look like we've seen widespread wind damages, but we have 34,000 without power. A lot of those are in northwest Arkansas, but about 800 are in Yell County, and that's just newly added to the total.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Johnson County over around Clarksville had about 300 or 400 power outages. Now that's back down to under 200. Pope County's had about 300 to 400. I want to look at another storm here. We'll go right back to the tornado warned storm in Van Buren County. This is over in western Arkansas. That's Mena. There's Pencil Bluff, Mount Ida, and this is a new severe thunderstorm warning. There is some wind along with this, but there's also hail with this one that's really not present in the tornado warned storm. And I'm going to show you what we're looking at there, some estimates of maybe just a little bit in excess of 1 inch in diameter hail, but that would be just to the south of Highway 270, Highway 71 coming down there and moving off to the east-northeast. And so there is a hail potential with that. And I think there is some potential for wind with that too. And there's another one of these bowed out features right here. So I'm going to look just on the kind of on the top part of that. It's not out of the question that that could rotate very briefly. I'm just going to throw that out there. This is a wind-producing thunderstorm, and it is a severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're in that area of northeastern Polk County, Scott County, the northern part of Montgomery County, and even all the way up into Yell County.
They're issuing a tornado warning for that exact spot, Barry.
Okay, so that's the one I'm looking at, and that's really what I was looking at. They are going to issue a tornado warning for this, and yeah. It's this that I was looking at, and I wondered if they actually would. This is Highway 88, so there's the rotation right there. And this is winds coming toward the radar site, going away from, and it's just that little notch in this bowed out area. So we were watching that, and sure enough, in the subsequent scans, we see that. Again, this would be a small tornado, but it doesn't take a large tornado. It doesn't take a long-lived tornado to do significant damage if it hits a structure. So it is now a tornado-warned storm, and that will be moving, as I said, eventually Scott County and northwestern Montgomery County, kind of right along kind of the stair-step pattern there of Scott County and Montgomery County. That's where it's going to be tracking, crossing Highway 270. On down to Mount Ida, you're technically in the tornado warning, or you're not quite in the tornado warning. The northern part of Montgomery County is. We'll have to see which way this goes, but along Highway 270, if you're in that area, go ahead and get into that lowest part of your house, the most interior part of your house. We'll back this up a few scans, and it began to rotate, just a couple of scans ago. Looks like a small rotation there, but it's certainly enough that there could be a weak tornado that moves along there and moving on up. So this would be probably taking it just to the north of the Pencil Bluff area. If you're in that area, go ahead and get into that lowest part of your house. And then we have the other tornado warning also. Still, northwest of Clinton, this one looks like it still has, it looks like it has a lot of wind with me, but there's kind of a wind maximum right there. And that's why this tornado warning has been issued, following that jagged path of Highway 16. So two little small areas, James, where there could be an accentuation of what is otherwise just a big wind field. There could be little tornadoes that form there. And I say little they could certainly have winds of 100 miles per hour plus.
Yeah, we say weak tornadoes a lot of the time, but that just means it's not going to level a house. It's going to down trees, power lines, definitely something you don't want to be outside for. The rotation that's now just to the east of Allrad, Crabtree is next in line. So after Highway 16 kind of snakes back here down towards the south, Crabtree sits right about there. This area of rotation is about to move through there, and then it does look like this is headed right for Botkenberg there on the north side of Clinton. Clinton, I still want you to take your tornado precautions, because sometimes if a circulation weakens, one further towards the south can begin to strengthen. So I've kind of outlined a couple of areas that we're watching, and the strongest one certainly is right over Highway 16 in Van Buren County. I'll put on another storm track here as it moves off towards the east. They've trimmed the tornado warning back just a little bit. It's now included the far north side of Clinton up towards Botkenberg and that large section of Highway 16, and then out towards Shirley, and even all the way up to Turkey Creek included in this warning. The storm itself still is moving at about 50 miles per hour. It's going to be rapidly crossing, and here I'll give it a better storm track than that. It's going to be rapidly moving east-northeast, it looks like now, and so this is we're going to take this northeast of Clinton, and there's Botkenberg at 1050. So this is going to be getting there in the next 15 minutes, or a little bit, maybe a hair longer than that. And I think this is actually moving a little bit faster than the radar thinks it is. But there's a good chance that even if you don't see a tornado from any tornado-warned storm tonight, there's a good chance that you do see some high wind. This area of rotation is embedded in a very large line of storms that's got wind punching out of the middle of it, and it goes down to the ground level, and it won't level thousands of trees or anything like that, but there could be some trees or power lines down sporadically along the line. You see even up towards Marshall some very heavy wind and rain. The tornado warned section of this storm is on the northern side of the storm, and then down towards the southwest you actually are starting to see just a little bit of a weakening trend, kind of where these two lines are beginning to separate. And this is a good thing. We have one line that's really beginning to accelerate off towards the northeast, and that is why you've got the wind threat going into Conway County and Van Buren County, and the tornado threat, and it's kind of leaving the line back towards Polk County behind. So you've just got rain in between. Really no severe weather in Yell County right now, or even in the Russellville area. It's just plain rain. But as you look back towards the west, that storm that's back into Montgomery County and the northeastern section of Polk County, it looks like it does pack quite a punch, and it's going to be coming up, Barry. It looks like it may stay just to the north of the highway there. But I've got, these two areas that we're watching, I think for at least the next little bit of time could present us a little bit of a problem, even though this middle section of the line, the last 45 minutes has really just fallen apart.
Yeah, and hopefully these will, but it's a little more worrisome, I think, over in western Arkansas. It's a stronger storm. It has more hail with it. I do want to can we take Storyteller really quickly? This is a shot along Highway 71 north of Mena. And this is kind of back behind the storm, but it has been near constant lightning with that storm. So this is going to be a big lightning producer. It has been a hail producer, it appears, as well. All right, if we can come back here, I just want to give you an overview of what we're talking about and show you that that's Mena. This is Scott County. This is Yell County and Montgomery County. The tornado warning goes from Scott to southwestern Yell, the northern part of Montgomery County. Now, I'm going to go into the wind field on this because we have a new scan coming in. And it's really hard to tell. The rotation that it was issued from is right here. And I don't know that it looks quite as strong as it did. I'm just going to go back a frame or two and kind of give you an idea. But that is the area that was really rotating. See right there? You've got that brighter coloring right there and that little notch. And I don't know that this is quite as strong as it was. It is still tornado warned, and there is still wind within that, and there is still that notch. So I'm just going to say you're all the way there. You're along Highway 270, kind of south of the highway. You're around Pencil Bluff. And I'm going to zoom in onto some areas here. You've got Highway 88. You've got Sperling Lane. Looks like a Forestry Service Road 774, a little brushy road also out there. It's a very mountainous terrain. I'm going to go on over toward Pencil Bluff and Odin, and you have Hughes Road, Whitetown Road. Along the Ouachita River, you have Camp Ozark over there. Camp Ozark, kids aren't there yet, but there are counselors there. You need to go ahead and get into that safe spot. This will be a wind producer, folks, of whether or not it's a tornado producer. So let's go ahead and get into that safe spot, and we'll continue to watch this, and hopefully the rotation part of it really begins to die out somewhat. I'm just trying to look along this line. Again, that was the area that was of concern. It could still be producing a weak tornado. It looks like the circulation, the way it's been moving, would take it just north of Pencil Bluff and north of Highway 88. But if you're in that area, go ahead and get into that safe spot there.
Barry, this storm up in Van Buren County looks a little bit more impressive now. The rotation strengthening just a little bit. It's right over Highway 16, just to the north of Crabtree, south of Copeland. It's going to be approaching US 65 here in less than 10 minutes. So Botkenberg down to Old Botkenberg. Hopefully you've had enough time to get into your tornado safe spot. Get there now. If it continues to intensify, there's a good chance this thing does produce a weak tornado. And hopefully it doesn't stay down long, but that's a very real possibility with storms this evening. You see the very bright red colors there. That's wind moving away from the radar in Little Rock, getting pulled into the storm. And you've got what we call a couplet right there. You see the red and green pixels coming together, and that's about to be right over Highway 16. That is where we could possibly have our tornado, and that is the most impressive circulation that we have seen so far in the Little Rock TV market tonight. And this is just almost right on Highway 16, Sawmill Road and Eagle Road, just to the east of the highway there at the turn, also in the vicinity of this circulation. We're getting radar updates just about every 3 minutes. So it's not as quickly updating as it normally does. There's some big gaps in the radar, but over the last 30 minutes, you see the area of strong rotation has actually gotten a little bit stronger as it has approached US 65. So we'll see what it does here in the next few minutes, but Botkenberg and points just north of Clinton. It's time to be in your tornado safe spot. Barry, if I'm mistaken, I don't think there's a camera too far to the north of Clinton once you go up the hill. I think the camera's actually at the bottom of the mountain there. But we'll see if we can get that pulled up.
Okay.
It's still a pretty strong area of rotation there, right along Highway 16. And, you know, I'm not seeing a debris signature with it, so that's certainly a good sign. We don't see a debris signature. Unfortunately, we've seen too many of them this year, but you'd actually see kind of a circle, a blue circle embedded in this product, which is showing a lot of red. That's showing a lot of raindrops. This is something that tells you what's rain and what could be debris. The radar assigns a value to particles. But we still have rotation. It's at least above the ground, and it's coming up right now on US 65, where we've got Botkenberg, and this is just to the north of Clinton. It's going to be crossing over Arkansas 110 as well, and that's going to be east of US 65 there. Of course, many of you may be familiar with I believe there's a service station right there. The Foursquare Church of the Botkenberg Foursquare Church is there on US 65 as well. Natural Bridge of Arkansas is in that vicinity. And then as you go over towards 110, you start getting towards Plant and then eventually Shirley, which is just off towards the east. I think this is going to stay just towards the north. Both of these tornado-warned storms over some pretty rough terrain, extremely difficult to see. And Barry, whether they are tornadoes or not, they are embedded in some areas of very, very high winds. We don't expect this severe weather threat to really go all night. We do expect things to kind of calm down as we get past midnight. And Barry, what's happening here back towards the west of the metro area is I see an outflow boundary in advance of some of this rain, which would end the tornado threat, at least for that part of the line. We'll see if that happens here out in West Arkansas. That storm out there probably has some really large hail. Moving into Montgomery County, the northern side of Montgomery County at least. These two tornado warnings still have quite a bit of time before they are expired, so we're going to stay with it. Barry, do you have anything on that southwestern storm? I haven't given it as good of a look as this one that's approaching US 65.
Well, that one is certainly stronger, so take your precautions in Botkenberg and just south of Botkenberg, the small community there. But this one is bowed out, and I'm just showing the wind feature of this. Obviously, there's rain along with it, but it's bowed out, and there are little notches along it, kind of a ragged pattern there in the northwestern part of Montgomery County, and it's going to be moving across that northern part of Montgomery County, north of Mount Ida. But as I look at it, there are a couple of little spots that almost look like it's trying to rotate. One right there, maybe another one down to the south of Highway 270. I think both of those areas are worthy of watching. This is the one that prompted the issuance of this tornado. So this would be north of Pencil Bluff. It's now just about to cross Highway 270. Again, we are not sure that this is producing a tornado. In fact, it may very well not be. But for the sake of argument, to err on the side of caution, you always, if you're at a tornado warning, you get into the interior part of your house, the lowest part of your house. It does not take very long, and it's not going to take very long to get past your house. Just be safe rather than sorry, because glass can blow out very easily, roofs can blow off. But if you're in that interior part of your house, a weak tornado, if indeed it's producing one at all, are totally survivable with this type of generally a weak storm like that. There is hail with this as well. I'm going to show you just the wind or the bowed out nature of this, but there are just these little notches that are of concern, and we'll continue to watch there. This rotation, not as pronounced as the rotation up in Van Buren County, but we're going to watch this and all along this line, although I think when you get south of here, I don't think the threat is very high at all. So we'll go back up, and James, we're just looking at this bowed out feature. Certainly it's going to be wind all along it from Clinton all the way down into Conway County.
There was a 52-mile-per-hour wind gust at Russellville.
Yeah, okay, so wind, yes, that's not a severe thunderstorm wind gust, but I think north of there, along the most bowed out part, you not only have the higher wind threat approaching Highway 65, that's going to be a rough ride along Highway 65, but you've got that rotation. James, what do you see now?
Let's see if we can take the Peyton Creek camera there on US 65. I think Chris May is getting it pulled up. That's just going to be sitting to the north of Clinton, and we'll be able to see this line. I think even in the dark, perhaps we're going to be able to see this line coming through. Not really looking for a tornado, but we are looking for evidence of high winds and heavy rain. I'm sure that we're going to be seeing that. It's not advisable to be traveling north on US 65 right now, north of Clinton. I think it's perfectly acceptable for you to just wait it out in Clinton, or perhaps one of the service stations just towards the north near Leslie. Let this thing get by. It won't take very long. And it's beginning to cross over US 65 right now. Do we have that on Storyteller?
There it is. Yeah, the winds don't look terribly strong right now. Cars are still driving.
I see the trees blowing there.
Yeah, they are. And the gust front was probably just a little out in advance of it, so it may have already been the worst of it. But hopefully this is something that begins to calm down just a little bit, or perhaps even puts out an outflow boundary, which, again, limits its tornado threat. But yeah, it's always great to have a RDOT camera there to get ground truth of what's happening. But yeah, the winds, they're bending the tops of those trees pretty good. Certainly the rotating part of that storm would just be just a little bit off to the north there. And it's really just past Highway 65, I think right now, the worst of that wind. Hopefully we'll be able to go off the air with no threat of rotation. And winds of 50 miles an hour, boy, those are totally doable. But we'll continue to watch both of these areas for the possibility of a rotating storm. Kind of looking at the one out to the west from the winds are getting pretty strong there, I think, at the last.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we take that just really quickly again? I think the winds really started to pick up there. Yeah, rain blowing sideways there in Clinton right now. So that is plenty of wind along this line, but we kind of anticipated that would be the case. And hopefully they stay sub-severe level winds, sub-60 mile per hour winds along that. Let's come back to Max 2 with me over here, and this is still an area of bowed out wind from Pencil Bluff northward, really. I don't see any obvious sign of rotation there, but there's plenty of wind. This is the Fort Smith radar, and if we move this just a little bit, we'll get a picture from the Little Rock radar. But it's kind of closer to Fort Smith right now. So it's getting out there where it's a little ways away from each of the radars. Still a tornado warned storm. And so especially from Pencil Bluff, Highway 270, and northward in Montgomery County, and if you're in that far southwestern corner of Yell County, this has kind of been narrowed to take in a little bit less of an area there as we pinpoint. But there's a lot of wind energy right there, and so they're going to leave this tornado warning in effect until they can figure out if there is any chance of rotation with it. And for right now, I think because it exhibited rotation just a little while ago, National Weather Service is probably going to stick with that for a little while.
So that warning is in effect until 11:15. The one in Van Buren County is in effect till 11. I think we're going to be on until at least 11, even with weak rotation there on both of those warnings. They did pull the tornado watch a little bit further towards the south, towards Faulkner County, White County. They pulled it further towards the east in advance of that line segment. I think they're waiting to see if this line weakens before they may add some central Arkansas counties to that watch. And got a new severe thunderstorm warning as well. That includes Hot Springs, as part of Pike County, part of Clark County, and part of Perry County as well. It's, remember, high winds, the primary threat at this point, though there is that secondary threat of a tornado or two. And we'll go back and look at the storm that's along US 65. Barry's doing radar analysis of the one towards the southwest. So we'll look at this one. And it doesn't look quite as strong, but still, there's the difference in the shift in wind direction, and you still have a couple of areas of rotation along the line that could lead to the possibility of a quick and hopefully weak tornado. Still, weak tornado is dangerous, and so we'll treat it as such. But even if you're anywhere in this yellow box where severe thunderstorm winds are possible, you know, it's a good idea to not be outside, not to be around trees. And certainly travel on US 65 between Marshall and Clinton, or Damascus, really. Not going to be a great time right now. This is coming up on the western edge of Greers Ferry Lake, and eventually the southern end of this line will get through Heber Springs. But really, it's going to affect, this whole line will affect everyone between Melbourne and the northern part of White County. And there's plenty of wind in this. We've had several reports of 50 and even 60-mile-per-hour winds. Subiaco had 60 mile per hour. The Russellville Airport had 52, and that was right after 10 o'clock. And so the line doesn't really appear to have weakened within the last 45 minutes. I think this line segment has a much better chance to make it further towards the east-northeast compared to the other line segment, which eventually is going to be moving into central Arkansas, Barry. Just not sure how strong it will be when it does that. The line segment further towards the south is moving at 55 miles per hour. So I'll go ahead and put a storm track on it as if it's not going to lose its severity, and I'll just draw it straight for the metro area, and we'll kind of get a time here on when this is headed this way. And you see there Lake Ouachita coming up on Lake Ouachita here very soon. Hot Springs coming up just after 11:20. Arkadelphia, the southern edge of that line, is probably going to be a little bit later because the northern edge is moving faster than the southern edge. But coming into Little Rock right around midnight, which is really what we thought all day. About midnight, the main line was going to come through. And also at midnight, that's when the severe weather threat really starts to drop. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be severe weather. It just means that is when generally we expect the atmosphere is starting to lose ingredients when it comes to severe weather. So you've got these two lines. One distinct one up in north central Arkansas, causing or throwing down high winds and the possibility of a brief tornado. Power outage numbers still steady, around 35,000, so we're not seeing just massive jumps in those numbers. But the threat for a brief tornado still is there up along US 65. And Barry, looks like they're going to let the warning in Montgomery County go. So that is just wind producer there out in western Arkansas.
Yeah, there was nothing really that I could pick out looking at it from the Little Rock radar, even from the Fort Smith radar, other than just a boat out area of wind there. And it's moving a little to the east-northeast, so mainly more up into southwestern Yell County than it was staying down in Montgomery County. So good news there. And that's probably what we're going to see tonight. And I would say we may not be done. Although I think as the farther east that these go, again, I think the wind is probably our biggest threat. But with bowed out areas of wind, you can always have those little notches that can produce kind of an accentuation to the wind, which is a tornado and a funnel can indeed form and briefly touch down, but they generally don't last a long time, and they're generally on the weaker side. And we hope that's the case. We hope for nothing, but if they do occur, we hope that that is the case. Now, the wind damage is the other part of this, but so far, a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, 52 at Russellville, and hopefully as we get this going off to the east a little more, we're going to see this either put out some outflow boundaries and begin to weaken, meaning cool air rushes out, and so the storm itself has nothing but cool air to ingest, or we're going to see it running into an area that it's just not as conducive to severe weather. And we're not there yet, but I would think on both of these lines of storms, James, that we could see that happen, going into an area that it's just not quite as primed for severe weather. And I think that's why the National Weather Service is kind of reluctant to just place a watch for a long, long way out in front, in that hopefully these begin to die out. But for now, we do have the one tornado warning.
The Storm Prediction Center says about 2 more hours of a continued severe threat. So in the short term, that takes us really to midnight, maybe just beyond it, before things really start to calm down, and I think they will. Midnight to 1. You might see another severe thunderstorm or tornado warning after that, but I don't think there's going to be more numerous ones. The rotation that we're watching now east of US 65 is very broad, but it's still worth the tornado warning from the National Weather Service. This warning goes for another 13 minutes. It's coming up on Shirley, so Shirley, just take the precaution. We know there's been some rotation in this storm up above the ground level. Certainly would hate to see a tornado drop on any of these communities up here in north central Arkansas. Just take the precaution. Go to the interior of your house. As Barry was saying, these types of tornadoes very survivable as long as you take the right precautions. This is going to, again, it's really coming up on the intersection of 110 and 16 right at Shirley. And then we'll also proceed to the northeast there, probably crossing over Highway 9 at some point, and looking like it's also going to enter the northwestern section of Cleburne County. Possibly there is another area of weak rotation here just to the east of Choctaw, right there, and it's moving off towards the northeast. And when you have big lines of storms, it's not uncommon to see several areas of rotation along one line. They're very hard to issue tornado warnings for, because by the time you identify one, they may be diminished. And you may have already had a tornado, the warning may have been issued, and you had 2 minutes to seek shelter, and then it's gone. That's how a lot of times these types of warnings go when you're trying to issue for a big line of storms. So a lot of times you'll see these tornado warnings embedded within a large severe thunderstorm warning, which covers the large area of high winds that's racing off towards the east. Now, this is a radar loop of the last 45 minutes, and you see how far this thing has moved from the eastern section of Pope County to the eastern section of Van Buren County. So 45 minutes, it's crossed the whole county. In another 45 minutes, it's going to be knocking on the door of Batesville, Independence County, Rosebud, or really a lot sooner for Rosebud, but Pleasant Plains there, just to the south of Batesville. And then eventually this is going to get into Jackson County. Is it going to hold together its strong wind threat? We really don't know. I think eventually it's going to run out of gas, but we will see. At least for the next 30 minutes, it's got that chance to produce some severe thunderstorm wind gusts. And Barry, with the line segment back further towards the southwest, I mean, it still looks very impressive. Just looking at it on radar, it actually may be stronger than the segment towards the north. That segment there in northern Montgomery County and southern Yell County, that is on track to reach the metro area right around midnight, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. We could see some high wind gusts here in Little Rock, along with lots of lightning and lots of thunder. We can't rule out an isolated tornado, but you know, that's a needle in a haystack tonight. One small tornado across, you know, a large area that Arkansas is. So to those of you that maybe are a little bit worried about the weather tonight, or get anxious as you head off to bed, just turn your alerts on. An isolated tornado here or there, you know, that's affecting a very small area. Even earlier today with the confirmed tornadoes that we had, they were not on the ground very long. Barry?
Yeah, and those storms up in northwest Arkansas were stronger than these storms and more supercellular in nature out by themselves. But these are certainly capable of producing wind, and that is our biggest issue tonight, I promise you. But a bowed out segment like this, and James said it best, I think this one looks more impressive wind-wise. There's certainly a hail core in that one as it moves over into Yell County. But I think this is a wind producer, and if we look at the wind features on it, kind of bears that out. There's a little bit of wind I think it probably shows up better. Can we take our other source? Can we take our storm scan? And I'll show you just a little bit more in color there exactly what we're talking about. This is just a large bowed out area of wind that's moving out of Scott County, moving up into western Yell County. And I think there's just plenty of wind there. There is some hail potential along with it now in southwestern Yell County, but watch for some strong gusty winds there. We'll be getting some ground truth. In fact, when this moves past Danville, we should be able to get a report of what the winds gusted to there. But this is something that we can look at, and then the other thing that you have to look at with this is that big backward C, right? So where would we start to look for rotation? Well, in that area. I don't see any now, but that's something we would look at. And these are severe thunderstorm warned. Danville, you're not in a severe thunderstorm warning right now, but I would say kind of treat it as though you are. Just get into the interior part of your house, away from exterior walls and windows, and we'll continue to watch that. And we're also watching the storm up to the north, Fairfield Bay and Shirley. This storm, its remnant rotation, is kind of near you right now. And so we're going to continue to watch both of these storms as they move on through. The one out to the west just looks a lot more vigorous as far as just content of moisture in it. So I think hail is going to be a pretty good sized threat with that. Here's the latest scan. I'm going to go back in and we'll see if we can get anything. Still a hail threat, but in a smaller area really right now. And rainfall-wise, certainly strong. Wind-wise, yeah, we still have just a lot of wind, I think, with the potential for more wind, straight-line winds primarily with this whole system. Up to the north, we look at the storm as it approaches the western end of Greer's Ferry Lake, Shirley and Fairfield Bay. And James, anything along there that...
Yeah, you just kind of pointed it out. There's a little area of rotation to the south of Fairfield Bay, and I pointed it out a few minutes ago. I was keeping an eye on it, so that's right there. There's also the remnant area of rotation near Shirley. Doesn't seem like these are producing tornadoes right now, but could they as a surge of wind approaches from the south? Yes. This is the part of the storm where you might find a weak tornado, and these both are about to enter the northwestern section of Cleburne County. Greer's Ferry, you're technically in this tornado warning. Go ahead and just remain in that safe place. Let's get this line past you, especially if you have lots of trees right around your house. It's just as a precaution with the possibility of a weak tornado spinning up out of this.
That new warning for that area of wind that's
a
strong.
Severe thunderstorm warning there. But as we look, I want to look at, this line actually is starting to lose its punch. You can see it as it pushes towards the east. The areas of red that are stretched in this line are just a little bit less thick and a little bit less concentrated. So this line may actually be beginning to lose its punch as it pushes towards the east. Still a pretty strong segment there up towards Mountain View and then into the northwest section of Cleburne County, but the southern end of the line does look to be falling apart as it enters Faulkner County. And the weakest segment of the line runs from about now Russellville down to through Conway County and into the northwest section of Faulkner County. So really not worried about that segment of the line at all. As you go down towards the southwest, though, look at the purple cores showing up in this segment. That's a little bit of small hail. Then you've got strong wind as well. So they've got a big severe thunderstorm warning that goes all the way out to Bismarck, Hot Springs, and Jessieville, and into the southwest side of Perry County as well. So things change quick in the weather business. We all know weather changes fast, and I'm hopeful that we'll see a weakening trend continue with this storm that's up into north central Arkansas. And it does look like, Barry, that they're going to let that tornado warning go at 11 o'clock here. So they are...
Yeah, the one up in Van Buren County. Yeah.
They are letting that warning go.
Yeah.
And so I believe what we're going to do is we're going to continue watching these storms as they produce high winds. If something looks really, really life-threatening, we're going to break in and tell you about it. Tornadoes fit that bill. Even a weak tornado is very life-threatening. But if we see a pocket of 70 to 90 mile-per-hour winds, something like that, we'll break in as well. It looks like right now, Barry, the wind gusts that we have seen have been sporadic and scattered. And so while we've been on, we have seen those power outage numbers climb from 33,000 to 35,000. So it's not in the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge jump with wind-producing thunderstorms that are moving across the state. Most of those outages, by the way, are from northwest Arkansas, where the storms were quite a bit stronger. That's where we had the highest risk of severe weather today. So that tornado warning is going to be canceled at any moment, and as of 11 o'clock, we're going to have no active tornado warnings in the state with a weakening line segment up there in North Arkansas. And I think the main show to watch in the short term is going to be this stuff out here in western Arkansas.
Yeah, I think before we take a break here, I just want to reiterate this wind bowing out right here around Fairfield Bay, moving over to Greer's Ferry, and the area to the southwest. And Danville, you're not in this severe thunderstorm warning, but I would say go ahead and kind of treat it like you are from about Danville southward. There's just kind of an area of wind right there bowing out. Briggsville, it'll cross Highway 27. There's Highway 80, and then eventually into the Highway 10 corridor. It's going to be bowing out. That is a severe thunderstorm warning area, and wind is going to be the biggest threat. We're going to continue to monitor the winds, and if there's any rotation or stronger winds, as James pointed out, we'll be right back on. But for now, we're going to send it back to programming and know that we are watching, and we will let you know if anything becomes, we think, life-threatening.